Brooklyn, where there are garbage trucks outside. This is not Los Angeles. You're talking about Los Angeles, city of winners. I'm in Brooklyn, where I don't know. Just make up what you think it is. I don't know. Here we are.
So let's start, Schrags, with we don't want to make too much about this, but Zach Wilson struggled. This is a tough situation. This is not Trey Lance with an elite O-line. And do you – don't want to put you in a bad spot, but is there a little bit of the Schrags you're like, he was not very good. He looks a little over his skis, or are we just being over the top here?
No, you're not being over the top. And I thought you were excellent with Mark Sanchez a few weeks ago, talking about what he came into the Jets organization as a rookie, and he had all these veteran players and a veteran defense and this great offensive line. Zach Wilson has not looked good this preseason or this training camp. He went 11 of 27 with 2 interceptions in front of all the fans in a scrimmage on the other day. And then today went 10 of 17. Got sacked 6 times and had an interception in all his reps at practice this morning, which just wrapped up. He also banged his finger on a pass rusher throwing the ball. And here's what the message I'm getting from everyone in Florham Park in New Jersey. It's like, slow down. First-year offensive coordinator, young offensive line, no top receiver to name, and a situation where it's a complete rebuild. So this is going to get a lot worse before it gets better. I wouldn't expect the Jets to be in the playoffs, but they know that, and they're excited about Mekhi Becton, the left tackle. Once Vera Tucker, the offensive lineman from USC, gets on the field, they think he's good. And there's hope for Mims and Elijah Moore. So this is a long-term play. It's nothing against the player. This isn't like they're kicking themselves. We should have taken Fields or Lance because of a couple of practices in August. But yes, this is not going to be an offense that lights up the league, and they know that.
All right, so it's interesting. You would think Michael Thomas and the Saints would love each other. He's productive. They should love him. And he's as arguably, he and Andy Reid and Sean Payton are the best coaches. And Joy and I talked about this a couple weeks ago, and this is where you have such insight. Last year it was uneven. It just isn't right. It should be smoother. And now there's cryptic tweets. I don't want to read too much into that, but what's up with Michael Thomas and the Saints? What's the rub here? I don't get it.
Well, it's not good. And last year, you mentioned it, he got in a fight with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and got suspended by Sean Payton. Well, this offseason goes, he's supposed to get some surgery done. He says, I'm going to get it done. I'm going to handle it. Or he says that his people are going to work on it. He goes away for 3 months. And the story that was reported by the New Orleans Times-Picayune this morning is that for 3 months, the Saints could not get a hold of Michael Thomas, could not get a hold of him. And he pushed off surgery, shows up to training camp, and is like, all right, now I'm going to get that surgery. Well, I mean, for 3 months, think about if any of your employers, Colin, if you went vanishing for 3 months and you said, I'm getting something taken care of it, and then 3 months go by and you show up back to work and say, actually, I need to get this done now. I didn't do it in those 3 months. So there's obviously an issue here with the Saints. The problem is, A, we haven't heard Michael Thomas's side. Sean Payton won't speak on it publicly. And lastly, the way they wrote his contract last year, where they gave him huge money, if they trade him, they still have to pay him $33 million because of the dead cap money. It's still on them. That's the way the contract was written. So they're in a tough spot. He's not a player that is just easy to trade because another team doesn't take on his contract. They're still paying for him. Obviously, this is as bad as it's been between Michael Thomas and the Saints, but I don't expect him to just show up and be happy anytime soon. Obviously, they have to work things out. And if you can't play for Sean Payton, who's the ultimate players coach, and you can't get on board with what he preaches, because guys love playing for Sean and they believe like he's one of them and it's them against the world and it's the Saints versus the rest of the league, even the league office sometimes. Well, I'm not sure what team's even a better fit for Michael Thomas. He hasn't spoken publicly, but I'm only speaking on it from what I hear. And clearly it's a situation of communication and also what happened this offseason.
Peter Schrager joining us, Fox NFL reporter, among his other duties. So the Deshaun Watson stuff, again, you go to social media, you'll get a million opinions. They clearly on the market would have some value, but I'm not sure how much value. Can you give us some clarity on that situation in Houston with, by the way, a quarterback most of his view as a top 5 or 6 guy in the league?
Yeah, I think he's in the top 10. And when he's he's on the field and he's got a star receiver like he had DeAndre Hopkins a few years ago, he was a top 5. Nick Caserio, the general manager, spoke publicly this morning. He said Deshaun Watson will not be traveling to Green Bay for the preseason game. He's been there, but hasn't been practicing necessarily at the quarterback position. And the league still has not done anything as far as putting him on the commissioner exempt list or weighed in on a judgment on the 22 cases that he was dealt with or accusations that he was dealt with this offseason. So there's this feeling of him being in limbo, not only with the Texans, but also with the league. Like, is this guy going to be even allowed to play this year? So I would say keep an eye on this one, because he still does not seem happy in Houston. We still have a lot of different teams that could be looking at quarterback. And I haven't heard any talks heat up in the last 72 hours or anything like that. But this is one of those deals where I would not be shocked if he is still dealt. And I look at teams around the league, and one of them that's been mentioned a bunch, and people have been dismissing it. I don't think it's crazy for the Philadelphia Eagles to look into Deshaun Watson, but I think knowing that organization, they would want to know from the commissioner that he's good, and from the league office that he's good before they even entertain those. But Jalen Hurts is their quarterback right now. But gosh, they go from Jalen Hurts to Deshaun Watson. We're talking a different tone about the Philadelphia Eagles this season.
And finally, it was a couple years ago, 3 years ago, and Schrager was not nearly the media rock star he is today, but Schrager said to me, this is kid named Patrick Mahomes. And so I Google Patrick Mahomes. I'm like, Schrager, he doesn't even win in college. Schrager's like, no, he's going to take the league over. And I'm like, well, Schrager could have been on some medication I wasn't aware of. Yeah. I didn't have any idea. So here we are. They are favored, not Tampa. They are favored to win the Super Bowl. You've always had a great relationship with this organization and insight. Deal. I don't know. Buffalo, Kansas City. I don't know. Do you like them? You make a prediction every year. You put it out there. Yeah. And last year, you predicted, was it Tampa and Kansas City in the Super Bowl? So you've been pretty good on this. Your thoughts about the Chiefs going forward this year?
I'll say this, Colin, and I appreciate you calling me out for that. You always do show me my respect for that. But that was all on Mahomes and what he did. This year, there was a lot of concerns in the offseason about their offensive line.
Yes.
And not only did they address it, I think they got one of the best offensive lines in football. And the player I'm going to give you a name for, this is why people listen to The Herd. They want to hear about offensive guard play. But the player's name is Trey Smith. And he's an offensive guard who they took in the 6th round.
Yes, from Tennessee, wasn't it?
Yes. So he slipped because of medical concerns. He is dominating Chiefs training camp this summer. Dominating the defensive line, the first line. They are so excited about him and Creed Humphrey, the center from Oklahoma. They also brought in Orlando Brown. They get back Tardif, the doctor who was up in Canada. They have rebuilt this entire offensive line. And I can tell you that they believe Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to get humming in year 2. Mahomes looks healthy. He looks good. I think the Chiefs are going to come roaring back with a vengeance. And I think they like the fact that they're kind of being dismissed after that Super Bowl performance. But yes, Colin, you're asking me for a bold prediction. A right guard who is drafted in the 6th round on a team that plays in a CBS market, Trey Smith. That's my guy. Kansas City Chiefs. They're going to be back, and they're going to be better than ever this year.
All right, Schrags. Good luck to you and all your stuff you're doing. Your podcast is great. Peter Schrager, congrats on all of it, and we'll talk soon.